Buenas noches, amigos de la Conexión. Les agradecemos mucho que estén sintonizando, viendo esta transmisión en vivo del Foro de Candidatos Demócratas de Carolina del Norte. Soy el periodista Pepe Caudillo, trabajo con la Conexión, como ya sabemos, y para nosotros es una oportunidad muy grande de celebrar el 20 aniversario que tenemos durante todo el 2016. Yo creo que esta es una de las oportunidades que tenemos de seguir informando a la comunidad a través de eventos de este tipo. Nos encontramos en el edificio sede del Partido Demócrata de Carolina del Norte, en el cual se está llevando a cabo el foro de candidatos que van a competir por un lugar y convertirse posiblemente en gobernadores de este estado a partir de enero del 2017. Esa ha sido hasta ahorita la primera parte de este foro. En la segunda parte del foro vamos a tener a 4 de los candidatos que están compitiendo por un escaño en el Senado federal. Como ustedes saben, este 2016 es un año de elecciones. Es un año en el cual se van a definir muchas posiciones en todos los niveles de gobierno, desde ciudades, municipios, estado y desde luego a nivel federal. Todos sabemos que hemos escuchado los debates presidenciales, hemos escuchado una serie de campañas políticas que se están desarrollando a lo largo de esta temporada, con miras a las elecciones primarias del 15 de marzo. Okay. Entonces, esta es una de las razones por la cual es muy importante estar atentos a este tipo de actividades. Como les comenté, estamos ahorita en el edificio que ocupa el Partido Demócrata en Carolina del Norte. Tenemos ahorita un receso entre la parte con los candidatos a la gubernatura y la parte con los candidatos al Senado federal. Por eso es que ustedes están viendo que está entrando y saliendo la gente, pero estamos igualmente muy interesados en seguir informándoles de lo que está ocurriendo aquí. Como un breve resumen, puedo comentarles que los candidatos a la Gubernatura del Estado, uno es el actual Procurador General del Estado, Roy Cooper, y el otro es el ex legislador y también abogado, Ken Spaulding. Cada uno tuvo oportunidad de contestar 4 preguntas, de las cuales tuvieron que ver con migración, tuvieron que ver con educación, tuvieron que ver con la cuestión de el juicio que está en contra de la acción ejecutiva del presidente Obama, el cual el gobernador de Carolina del Norte está apoyando. Una de las preguntas que recibieron fue si ellos llegan a ser gobernadores, ¿seguirían apoyando este juicio en contra de la acción ejecutiva de Obama? Los dos respondieron que no están a favor de ese juicio. Ellos piensan que este estado tiene una diversidad que es cada vez más notoria. Ellos están a favor, es palabras de ellos, de incrementar esta diversidad, de actuar a diversos niveles en el área privada y en el área pública. Inclusive el Procurador General Roy Cooper indicó que él estaría de acuerdo en empezar a hacer una especie de entrenamiento en los niveles altos de manejo de personal para que entiendan cuál es la importancia de esta diversidad y de esta manera el Estado crezca en ese aspecto. Insistimos en que esto solamente son palabras de candidatos que piensan ocupar un puesto como gobernadores. Esto hay que tomarlo en cuenta. Ahora, nosotros hacemos hincapié en este punto porque pensamos que el electorado latino y el electorado afroamericano, quizá también lo están viendo, tienen que estar enterados de este tipo de información para que ellos puedan decidir por quiénes van a salir a votar en un momento dado. Nosotros no estamos empujando a nadie a votar por un lado o por el otro, simplemente queremos decirles, informarles, llevarles acá a la información hasta sus casas, hasta sus celulares, hasta sus computadoras de lo que está ocurriendo aquí en el estado. Otra de las preguntas que se hicieron a los candidatos fue la que tiene que ver con los niveles de desempleo. Ambos coinciden en que los niveles de desempleo y la economía del Estado está en declive. Estamos en los niveles nacionales muy bajos y ambos están de acuerdo en hacer cambios en la legislatura y en cambios a nivel de la vida cotidiana de las empresas, de los pequeños negocios, de los negocios más grandes, para que la economía florezca y de esa manera generar también más empleos. Incluso los dos también hicieron un enlace entre el tema de la economía y el tema de la educación. Ambos entienden que las dos son prioridades para los estados y las dos son prioridades para ambas partes de la comunidad, en este caso la comunidad afroamericana y la comunidad latina. Entonces ellos, palabras de candidatos, insisto, a la Gubernatura del Estado, están indicando que están de acuerdo en seguir aplicando políticas y hacer los cambios que se requieran para que esta situación mejore. Otra de los aspectos que tocaron fue que ambos están de acuerdo en empujar políticas que procuren una mayor y mejor educación a la comunidad latina y a la comunidad afroamericana. Se sabe que hay muchos rezagos en cuestiones de educación, se sabe que no hay suficientes maestros para empezar en diversos sistemas educativos de todo el estado, se sabe que los maestros que se tienen disponibles no están recibiendo los sueldos que ellos deberían de recibir para poder ejercer un trabajo más alineado, más profesional, que rinda más para los estudiantes, nuestros estudiantes. Hay algunos maestros, el candidato Spaulding mencionó que él conoce varios maestros que tienen que trabajar en la noche, tienen que trabajar un segundo turno para poder sostener a sus propias familias. Y estos son los maestros que están cuidando a nuestros niños en las mañanas, de manera que los maestros se merecen tener un mayor ingreso, un mayor sueldo, que pueda redituar en un mayor rendimiento escolar para nuestros jóvenes. Vamos a seguir con la segunda parte de este foro de candidatos demócratas a los puestos de gobernatura del Estado. Muchas gracias por seguir con nosotros. Welcome to the Griffin House, which is the official place, the official home of the North Carolina Democratic Party and home to Democrats statewide. And so this is an important night for democracy. I think it was mentioned earlier that having our candidates here, having them speak to the voters is very, very important. Because at the end of the day, Democratic voters decide who our nominees are. That's the official space that the North Carolina Democratic Party in. We do not endorse. We let our Democratic voters decide who our nominees, who our Democratic nominees. Our only job is to make sure that we're campaign ready and that we're victory ready to beat Republicans in the fall. And so we certainly want to thank the African American Caucus and the Hispanic Caucus for putting tonight's event on. Thank you, candidates, for being here and putting yourself at the will of the voters. That is something that a lot of people don't have the stomach for, but it's something that's very, very important, and it makes our democracy and our state strong. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for being good Democrats. Tonight's a Friday night. We got a full house. That is amazing, and I can't wait. To see what March 15th brings. So thank you for coming. Enjoy the candidates, and we look forward to having you vote with us on March 15th and in November. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brett. And just let me say very quickly an introduction. In this corner, we have Ernest Reeves, candidate for the United States Senate. And here we have Deborah and Chris Ray and Kenneth Griffin.
Kevin!
You know, I ran for Congress some time ago, and it's rough. It's rough. It's not easy. These people are taking on challenges that if you've never done it, it would be very difficult to explain it to you. It's very difficult. And I'm really grateful that you guys are doing this, and I'm grateful that you're here today to face the music. And so, moderators, here we go.
All right, thank you. Candidates, thank you for coming, and let me just make you aware as to how we're going to do this real quick. Since there are 4 of you as opposed to 2 candidates in our previous segment, what we will do is we'll ask you 4 questions. However, the first question all 4 of you will answer. The 4th question all 4 of you will answer. The second question 2 of you will answer, and the third question 2 of you will answer. Okay. Now, which 2, when, where, how, that's up to Pepe and I guess. But I just want to make sure that you're aware so that when we get to the second and third question, all of you will not be responsible for answering it, okay? All right, so I guess I start this one, all right? Let me give you an easy one that all 4 of you should be able to knock out the park. How is Senator Richard Burr failing North Carolina and failing the nation? All right. Ms. Ross, since you're a lady, we'll give it to you first. And please speak into the microphone and speak up so everybody back there can hear you.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for holding this forum, and it is wonderful to see this many people out and interested in our democracy. So thank you for being here. I believe that North Carolina deserves better than Richard Burr in the U.S. Senate. He has not been taking care of ordinary people's needs and reflecting the values of North Carolina during his service. People are hurting today. We need to make sure that our kids have access to a high-quality public school education. Richard Burr has voted against ways to manage student loan debt, increase access to Pell Grants for higher education. This is simply wrong for the next generation. He's against raising the minimum wage. He's voted against equal pay for women. He was against the Affordable Care Act and came up with his own plan that would have let insurance companies kick people off their insurance. And finally, and probably the worst for our seniors who have worked hard their whole lives and paid into Medicare and Social Security, he is opposed to keeping those programs the way they are and has voted to privatize them. This is wrong for the people of North Carolina and the country, and these are not our values. When I go to Washington, I'll be on the opposite side of every single one of those issues.
Mayor Chris Ray, how has Richard Burr failed North Carolina? How has he failed the country?
Miserably and miserably. Those would be the 2 answers. When I decided to run for mayor, I took over a city that was under siege with criminal activities. I took over we were down and out when it came to jobs in our community. It was challenges as it related to us being able to bring jobs to our organization. When I became the mayor of the city, we recognized that there were challenges that needed to be faced, and it was because of leadership that we weren't getting from Washington, D.C. I decided to run for the United States Senate because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sick and tired of an economy that doesn't work for everyone. I was sick and tired of a healthcare system that didn't work for everyone. I was sick and tired of a criminal justice system that didn't work for everyone. I was sick and tired of seniors being afraid of knowing if their Social Security was going to be available for them when they got older. I was sick and tired of there not being true immigration reform in America. So my decision to run was very simple. It is our time, and it's our turn. And I understand the challenges that are facing North Carolina, because as a mayor, I've gotten a chance to see it all. One of the things that now I'm serving in my 3rd term as mayor of my city. And in that 3rd term, we have a community that is thriving with almost 100 new businesses that we've added. We have a police department now that is one of the best police departments in the state. And one of that came from having a vision, and that came from leadership. leadership that we're not getting out of Washington, D.C. And if I get the opportunity to represent the people of North Carolina, that's the type of leadership that I will be able to bring. Innovation, energy, and the type of thought process that's necessary to help the people of this state.
All right, thank you. Mr. Griffin? Same to you. How is Senator Richard Burr failing North Carolina and failing the country?
His main failure is that he forgot about the people. He has worked very hard to take the Senator No title away from Jesse Helms. When you lose track of real life, when you spend your entire career in politics, you forget what it's like to walk into a Walmart, to see how much bread costs, to see how much milk costs, to live like a normal person, to struggle and understand that there are times when you make a decision between paying your rent, eating, providing for your children. Those are the problems that Richard has forgotten about. Those are the problems that we have to face. I got in this race because I'm tired of the promises. Every politician promises things. It's time to deliver. And what you will see as a difference when I am in Washington is exactly what I tell you I'm going to do is what I will do. That's why if you go to my website right now, you'll see 20 plus policy statements with exactly what I'm going to do to help the people of North Carolina improve their station, their situation, so that the individual voice can be heard once again.
Okay. Mr. Reeves, if you can pull that microphone up close to you so we can hear you good and loud. If you had the chance to, if you're walking down the street and you see Senator Richard Burr coming the opposite way towards you, and you were to stop him, what would you tell him to his face he is doing to fail North Carolina and fail the United States of America?
Well, first of all, he's a Republican. So automatically I would tell him, no, but on a serious note, you know, Mr. Burr is a senator for all of the people here in North Carolina. And when you sit back and you watch how, you know, he allowed the state of North Carolina to treat teachers, and I mean, I don't see him here, you know, protesting that, you know, our teachers are like on his second page to West Virginia. I don't see him out here trying to increase the minimum wage knowing that we have 18% poverty right here in North Carolina. And in fact, if the truth be told, we have 4 of the fastest growing poverty-stricken cities in the United States. And I don't want to call them because one of them, you know, we're sitting in right now. So Mr. Burr, I mean, like I say, she already mentioned, right? I mean, he doesn't support minimum wage increase. He doesn't support, you know, giving women, you know, equal pay. He does not support even Medicare expansion. Right here in this state, if we expand Medicaid, we could bring 50,000 new jobs here by 2020. Tens of billions of dollars for economic revenue and also millions of dollars for taxes for this particular state right here. In addition, over 500,000 people could be covered. But I don't see Mr. Burr here, and he represents all the people. Now, I know a little something about senators. My father worked for United States Senator John East, Republican of North Carolina. And my daddy was a liberal, and Mr. East was a social conservative. But at least they agreed on landscaping. But Mr. Burr has an obligation to all the people here. And like I said, if you elect me, look, I'll go to fight for you. I'm running to affect every city, every county, every municipality, and go to Washington, D.C. and take your fight there. I retired from the Department of Defense at Pentagon, had opportunity to work as an escort officer for U.S. Ambassador Paul Bremer, had a chance to take him to see not only Secretary of Defense, but also the President of the United States, having to pinch myself while I was there. So I would go to Washington, D.C. to fight for you. But Mr. Burr has been a real failure for this state, and all I hear everybody say is how great he is on intelligence. Well, all of us in here, I mean, if you have a staff of 50 people giving you reports every day, anybody can do intelligence. I mean, hey, I attended the United States Army Intelligence Center in school during my senior year in college before I got commissioned into the United States Army Signal Corps. And so, like I say, and I'm sure that I've had critical assignments more important and more better than Mr. Burr. So that's why I say to Mr. Burr.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Cash. The next question would be for Mr. Griffin and Mr. Ray, if you don't mind. And the question is related to the cycle of incarceration. As we all know, African Americans, Latinos, and even Native Americans are in high numbers and high percentages the kind of the highest populations in jails. So to make the question short, we know some of the reasons why we have this cycle. But if you are elected, can you do something to change this cycle of incarceration? What are going to be your steps in order for finally change this situation? Mr. Ray, if you don't mind going first.
Really good question. I can tell you what I've already begun to do. When I first got elected mayor in 2011, about 4 months later, the first bill that I signed into law in Spring Lake was ban the box. And that was in 2012. Now, I'm excited to see all the communities around America now talking about ban the box. But in little old Spring Lake, we were one of the first communities in America to do that. Because I understood, growing up, my grandmother raised me. I had 6 uncles, and one of them, who was my father figure, was really good, but there was a couple of other ones that didn't have such a rosy life. Some of them, they're still in prison right now. But one of the challenges that they faced was when they got out of prison, no one gave them an opportunity. And Spring Lake is considered one of those communities, before I became mayor, that was the other side of the tracks. And so when you got out of prison, you usually didn't have an opportunity. And so I recognized that in having a chance to serve in leadership position, these were one of the first things that I wanted to do. We started an initiative working with the president with My Brother's Keeper. Again, very excited to see everyone, communities around America being able to do that. Just last week, I had the opportunity to sit with Secretary Fox and Congressman Price to talk about how we can expand that program throughout North Carolina, because we've already begun to do it. If I have the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and represent the people of North Carolina, I recognize that incarceration and how it's being done, especially in our community, it is unfair. And it is critical that we begin to look at some other programs, especially how do we make sure that individuals have second chance opportunities, job training programs, but also being able to be plugged in to opportunities once they get out. But that means that you have to have a system of care, and you have to have leaders that understand that that's important. But I can tell you that we've already begun to do that in Spring Lake, and I look forward to being able to expand that opportunity when I get to Washington.
Candidate Griffin, the same question. How are you going to approach this issue of the incarceration cycle?
The first thing that you have to do is to realize that every individual has value. That basic concept has to permeate everything that you do. When you realize that, then you can take aggressive steps. You can look at removing the mandatory sentencing guidelines that force people who may have had 1 or 2 wrong issues into a lifetime in prison. You can, as Chris said, remove the background check requirements in positions so that people who are transitioning out can also have an opportunity to improve their life. But you have to start before that. You have to start with a comprehensive education system that allows teachers to teach to the child instead of to the test. As you give people, individuals, the tools, skills, and abilities to be successful, the next step is to create opportunities for them to put that success to work. So we have to look at things like expanding the Small Business Administration Loan Guarantee Program so that people who may be from a depressed area that cannot qualify for bank financing on a traditional basis can run forward with a great idea for a business so that they can lift themselves up out of that situation. It's about clearing obstacles. It's about giving people the tools to succeed and making sure that we're supporting them along the way. that's the focus. There are specific steps that you can take with that. Thank you.
All right, so the next question then will be for Ms. Ross and also for Mr. Reeves. Mr. Reeves, let's take you first this time, if that's all right. Okay, you are now Senator Reeves. In your opinion, what are your priorities as it relates to two areas, national security and unemployment? What are your priorities in each one respectively?
Well, national security is my number one program as a senator. Just about 10 days before the bombing of 911, I got a call telling me that I've been nominated to go to the Pentagon. And so I was sitting at my seat, and I said, I ain't saying anything. I didn't even tell my boss. I didn't tell none of them. And so I told the guy, I said, well, send me my orders. And so I accepted the assignment. The guy called, my new boss from the Pentagon called me and said that, he had reviewed my record and thanked, my congratulatory comments in terms of me being selected. So I got my orders cut on 7 September. And so I'm all happy to go. And then one of my bosses, she came in and told me that she wanted me to go to Georgia for a communications conference. So I flew down to Atlanta, and I'm sitting down at a conference with, the Army's best. And the Signal Corps, and Mr. Ray can tell you, they do everything. I mean, we do automation, telecommunication, we do satellite, we do radio, we do, I've done, visual information, television, cable, anything that you can feel, see, touch. If it's got electronic, you shooting signals or, signal communications or intel, we do it. And so we all sitting down there, and then all of a sudden, we saw everything that happened. And our hearts just fell. But then when I got to the Pentagon, just several months later, and my parent company, the headquarters department of the Army, I worked for the administrative assistant to the Secretary of the Army, and they had lost a lot of people. But when you see I saw the resolve of the people, and I saw all the people that work in the military district of Washington, and they work for intelligence agencies and investigative agencies, and then my sister and my brother, they work downtown Manhattan, and you saw the first responders, and it just made me feel proud. So national security is a must. We must protect the homeland. Now, I had the opportunity also to be nominated to work at Seattle International Airport for almost 4 years prior to winning a national scholarship to come back to St. Augustine's College. What I learned by working for Mobilization Command on behalf of the Army and Department of Defense, that security is a must. So what we must do, we must make sure that we protect our ports, air and water. We must protect our critical infrastructure, nuclear sites. Right here in this city, like all the way around the United States, our public spaces, high schools. I filled out the NEA survey the other day. I told them if I'm elected senator, I want one school resource officer at a minimum for every public school, particularly our pre-K school, because this is a new era. We also must protect places like right here, like our water sources, because water sources are critical. Oh, and then unemployment. I work very tirelessly to help unemployment because, like I said, we have 18% in this state. It's a travesty, and the Governor McCrory and his party all needs to go.
All right, Ms. Reeves, thank you. Ms. Ross, same question now. You are now senator, and it's almost guaranteed, no matter whatever issues cross, it's going to be national security, because folks right now are, kind of upset, kind of worried. Republicans are making sure to it. So what are your priorities in that regard? And then when it comes to unemployment, what are your priorities there as well?
Well, both of those issues could take hours to discuss, but I'll try to do them in 2 minutes.
And when he holds up that sign, stop. Yeah.
Let me be clear. On national security, my number one priority would be to keep people safe. I understand that people feel insecure. I feel insecure. It's a dangerous world. We have external threats that are not on our soil. And where there are people who are threatening our freedom, where there is ISIS, we need to take them out where they are. But we have to do it with 21st century intelligence, 21st century warfare, and we have to do it with our international partners. We cannot do it alone. These threats are global. But national security also plays a role inside our borders. We're seeing terrorist threats inside, people who are being activated to go and shoot people in a daycare center or in a post office. We need to redouble our efforts, work with law enforcement, work with our intelligence community, and then have the confidence of our local communities to root out internal threats before they result in terrorism on our homeland. As for unemployment, I completely agree with Mr. Reeves that the Republicans have done very little to bring unemployment down. What has happened is that the economy has improved. And the economy improves when people create jobs, when small businesses create jobs. When I was in the legislature, I worked to help small businesses get the tools that they needed from the state, through small business loans, through small business programs to create those jobs. But the government can create infrastructure jobs through critical programs to, for example, the bond issue that's coming up, which will create a whole bunch of jobs building our state out and providing the services that we need. We need to create good jobs, we need to keep them here, and we need to pay a fair wage.
All right, this would be the last question, and it's the question that all 4 candidates are going to answer. From 2000 to 2014, an average of 35,000 new Latinos have been coming to the North Carolina state, among with other immigrants and other refugees. However, just the last year, we saw from different legislators in our state and in other states too, that there's this anti-immigrant, anti-refugee sentiment. And that brings other problems. If you are elected, what steps are you going to take to make sure that immigrants, refugees, and other people that need help are going to receive humanitarian and legal help, or they're just going to receive what they need? If I can start with Mr. Griffin. So how are you going to make sure that immigrants, refugees receive the humanitarian and otherwise help that they're looking in this powerful country?
Well, for me, there are very specific actions that we can take. The first is to make sure that every person coming in has the opportunity to be successful. So we need to bring them into the system instead of forcing them into hiding. We need to make sure that people have the right to work, the right to the social programs that they need to be successful, and the right to raise their families and live in peace. When you treat people as they're valuable, then you're going to open your doors. Now, we have to have a comprehensive background check system. We need to verify people to make sure that they're not coming here with malicious intent, but we need to open the doors. The United States is the light of the world. We can't just turn it off when we don't like people headed in our direction. We keep the light on. We are strong because of our diversity, not in spite of it. So we have to bring people in, make them a part of our system, welcome them, because that's what makes us a great nation. You'll see the details, exact details of an immigration plan on my website.
Thank you. Mr. Reeves, if you're elected, what kind of steps are you going to take to make sure our refugees and our immigrants receive what they're looking for?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I had the opportunity to, on behalf of the nation, to spend 3.5 years at Seattle International Airport. Plus, I'm a former supervisor of airport operations for headquarters United Airlines at Chicago O'Hare. Also, I did my training rotations at Denver International in San Francisco International. So working in management with jets and you know, a lot of airports, and knowing a lot of people that work in that field, plus being stationed just an hour north of Mexican border for 2 years, and also having an opportunity to work, you know, in this field a little bit. I would say this: I am not for a pathway to citizenship. I am for a pathway to stay. I do support the DREAM Act program as long as they strengthen the number, bring it down to about 30, and then making sure that under the DREAM Act that we strengthen the conditional period, and also absolutely not have the Homeland Security as being the arbiter to waive it, because you know that's not right. But what I would do, if they're here legally, they will receive, you know, as prescribed by law. But if they're here illegally, then like I believe that everybody deserves opportunity. But what we also have to do, we also must explicitly put the rules out. If someone comes here, you know, illegally, what do we do? Now, I'm not for sanctuary cities because that's wrong. And I know a lot of people that are trying to be citizens. I happen to have 2 Hispanic roommates in my lifetime, Jesus Beretta Hernandez and Lucio. And both of them, I mean, they would tell you now, look, I'm trying to be a citizen. And so they wanted to do the things the right way. So if you do the things the right way, you know, we open the welcome mat. But just right now in this environment, we must ensure that everybody that comes into this country, if the FBI cannot tell you who they are, then they can't come in. It's just as simple as that. And then if they're here illegally, then they must follow the law until the Supreme Court is going to decide soon, you know, about those other situations. I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Chris Ray, what are your views or what will be your views if you get elected to make sure our immigrants and refugees receive what they're looking for in this country?
One of the things that I think that we're challenged with as a nation is that we reflect the kind of people we send to represent us. If you send people who don't care about other people, then you get what you get. One of the things that I love about being a Democrat is that we understand people. We understand the struggles of people day in and day out. We understand that America is the place that people come and they scrap for to try to come and get opportunity and be able to make a better life for themselves and for their family. We have to make sure that we educate Americans as well as leaders to make sure that they know that we have one of the stringent and one of the strongest, when it comes to refugees coming to America, we have one of the strongest programs in the world. And I want to make sure that that doesn't get lost by the propaganda that our Republican counterparts put out there. There is a system that is in place to make sure that we are safe as a nation. And for them to stand up and to say that the men and women that work for the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, those individuals are not doing enough. They have families here. They're struggling every day to make sure that we are safe as a nation. And so it hurts to know that you have individuals who don't care about other people. We have to make sure that we continue to be the light of the world, as Kevin said, and making sure that we do everything that we can to make sure that individuals who are here, that we create a pathway to citizenship for them. If the word teaches me that I can't split up families, that I can't hurt families, and if we're going to be that type of nation, then we have to really sit back and take a look at ourselves. I want you to know that if you will have a U.S. Senator that understands the power of working with people and understanding that we have to be welcoming, that we have to be a nation that's going to make sure that not only do we work hard to keep our borders safe and make sure we keep our nation safe, but that we make sure that we have the programs in place to protect people. And that's the type of citizen, that's the type of senator that you would have.
Thank you. Ms. Deborah Ross, you open our session. You're going to close our session. I hope that is good for you.
Happy.
So if you get elected, what are you going to do to make sure that our refugees and immigrants receive or get what they're looking for in this country?
Well, we need to remember, respect, and honor our history. And we are a nation of immigrants. That's something that we need to be proud of. We also need comprehensive immigration reform, and this Congress has simply failed at it and over-politicized it for their own personal gains. The U.S. Senate 2 years ago passed comprehensive immigration reform, and it was pretty much bipartisan. There were Republicans and Democrats that came together to do the right thing. Richard Burr voted against that comprehensive immigration reform. I would have voted for it. We need comprehensive immigration reform that does three things. It creates a path to citizenship for people who work hard, pay their taxes, and abide by our laws. People want to come to the United States. We should be glad that they want to live the kind of life with the kind of values that we have. We should be welcoming. We also don't need to break up families unnecessarily. If we have family values, we should value families. But we also need to make sure that we're safe. And as we've seen from a lot of the initial comments that came out about refugees, we have some pretty strong measures in place already to screen people who come into this country. Do we need to look at them a little bit more closely, maybe make some changes, close some things up, maybe loosen some other things? Yes, everything needs to be reviewed. But we need to respect the fact that comprehensive immigration reform is the only solution, and I will work to make that happen. Richard Burr has simply failed at that while he's been in Washington.
Okay, Mr. Griffin, Mayor Ray, Ms. Ross, and also Mr. Reeves, thank you for answering our questions. Right now, you have 2 minutes each to give us a closing statement. However, I want to do this differently. Yes, I'm in charge right now, that's right. It is March 15th, primary day. Polls close at 7:30. It is right now 7:25. You are at somebody's poll, and you've got 2 minutes. I'm only going to say this once. I'm not going to do it for each of you, so remember what I say. You've got 2 minutes to convince that person that you are the best choice on primary day to face Richard Burr in the fall. You have the scenario now, all right? So that means there's 5 minutes left for that person to vote. You're going to take 2 minutes of it. So that means you got to give them your best shot. Let me hear you. Mr. Reeves, let me hear you first here. You got 2 minutes.
Yes, my name is Ernest Reeves. I'm running for the United States Senate. I ask you for your vote. Please go to ernestreeves.com. I will not let you down. I will go across this state tirelessly as a senator and ensure that I take care of all the needs of the people. I'm a senator for everybody. I'm not perfect, but the one thing you can sure about me is that I'm a straight shooter. If you ask me a question, I'll tell you. If I don't know, I'll get back with you. But the one thing that I will not fail you at, I will not let you down. You can count on me. Here again, go to ernestreeves.com. I ask you for your vote. I need it right now. And if you go ahead and do it, I can beat Richard Burr.
Ross, it's 7:25. You got 2 minutes now. What's that closing statement?
Hello, I'm Deborah Ross, and I would like your vote. I was raised by a dad who was in the Vietnam era. He was a doctor, actually, during the Vietnam era, and my mom was a preschool teacher who was a volunteer in the community. Their values and the hard work that they instilled in me inspired me to go into public service, to be a lawyer who's fought for people, but who's also helped small businesses and helped grow our economy, to be a legislator who worked across the aisle on important public policy issues, everything from getting same-day voter registration to making sure that we had good infrastructure projects, to making sure that kids had the resources that they needed in schools so that they can go on to live a better life. I will fight for you. Washington has not taken care of you the way that it should, and Richard Burr is not the senator that you need. But first, you have to vote for me today on March the 15th, and then you get to vote for me again on November 8th. I know that you don't have your computer in front of you, But if you did, you would go to my website, www.deborahross.com, and after today, you can forward it to your friends. You can come to meetings and rallies, and together, we can make this state and this nation greater. Please vote for me on March 15th, and don't forget to vote for me again on November 8th. I'm Deborah Ross. Thank you so much for voting today.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Mayor Ray, yo, man, it's 7:25. You can't take a whole lot of time. You know, after you get through, they just have 3 minutes left, and they may have to show some ID, so you can't take up all day with this now. So 2 ID, okay. So you know, here, 2 minutes before they cast that vote on March the 15th. This is your make or break. You might win the nomination by this one vote. So it's got to be your best sales pitch. 2 minutes, let me hear you.
Well, now that you're putting down your phone from going to www.chrisray.com and looking at our website, when I became mayor of my city, I took on a city that was dealing with police corruption. I had a community that was not growing any jobs. I had a community that, when it looked in the mirror, it didn't like what it saw. We had a community that was struggling, that had a crumbling infrastructure. And in my third term as mayor, we have a police department that's one of the best in the state. We have, during my time period, grown almost 100 companies that now call Spring Lake home. We spend almost $10 million in infrastructure in our community. And now the energy and the excitement in our community is the highest it's ever been. And it's because there was an energy and a vision and a leadership that came to our community. If I get the opportunity to represent you and represent the people of North Carolina, we get to first and foremost put a ticket in front of the people of North Carolina that represents all of North Carolina. And by doing that, you have the opportunity to bring a different kind of energy. And that energy doesn't need to be lost in the middle or at the end of the ticket. It needs to be at the top of the ticket. And if you give me the opportunity to represent North Carolina from the top of the ticket, we will be able to not only send Pat McCrory home and send Dan Forrest home, we'll be able to make sure that we put 4 or 5, maybe a few more folks in the General Assembly to be able to make sure that we have a governor that's going to be also effective. Because it's about being a team. And you want to be able to put the strongest and the best Democratic ticket forward. You see, politics isn't just about policy making. It's about energy. It's about making sure that you have the energy to move people. And Chris Ray knows how to move people. And if you give me the chance to represent you, not only am I going to move the people of North Carolina, but I'm going to move America, because that's what we need in the United States Senate. Vote for me, because I need your vote, and then vote for me on November 8th. That would have been my grandmother's 84th birthday.
Now, Mr. Griffin, because you're the last, I got to make it even tougher for you. All right? Here it is, it's 7:25. You only have 2 minutes. This person has to show ID. And what makes matters worse is this person has been waiting online for a long time. They finally got up there before the place closes down in 5 minutes, and you're going to stop them for 2 minutes before they actually get in, after they've waited that whole time, and you're going to sell yourself to them, and they don't want to hear you because they've been waiting on this line. And they put up with this. And so you've got 2 minutes of somebody that doesn't want to hear you. What are you going to tell them about your candidacy, and why, when they get in there, they need to consider you as the choice, the Democratic nominee, come November 8th?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is to stand up, because that person is worthy of my respect to them. They are the reason that we're all in this. And I'm going to remind them that this is a choice where you can pick the same old politicians to do the same old things, promise, and not deliver. Or you can pick somebody who has gone out to the state, has spent all of this campaign time meeting with people, talking one-on-one, not holed up in a house somewhere, dialing for dollars so that I can outspend a candidate. The conversation is what's important. You have the right, you have the opportunity to vote for change. That starts right here. Take it into your grasp. Make a difference. Decide, who do you want to represent you? Is it a small business owner who brings new ideas, who brings new energy, a new approach to do something magical for the United States? Or is it a politician, a one-percenter who has to decide whether on vacation they go to their mountain home or to their beach house? You have to decide who is actually the representative for you as a person. Pick the one that can enlighten you. Pick the one that can lead you. Pick the one that can represent you, because they're honest, they're forthright, they're completely transparent. I'm that person. I believe it in my heart. That's why I got in this race. I appreciate your vote. I appreciate you standing in line to exercise your freedom, your rights. Thank you for your vote. I look forward to turning Richard Burr into an unemployed person in November.
I want to thank everybody, and there is, I'd like to ask the candidates to stay here so that you guys can talk to them, but I'd like to also welcome any other candidates who are here. If you are a candidate